You're watching Mind Your Own Business with Jonathan Dawson.
Hello and welcome to Mind Your Own Business. I'm your host, Jonathan Dawson. Welcome back for many of you coming back to the show. If you've been following the most recent releases in the right order, you know that I just did a part 1 and part 2 about a sales leadership summit that I personally attended. I got a 200-page workbook. I got an additional 40 pages of notes here on top of the notes in the workbook. And I gave a summary of the 10 principles that were discussed at that event. If you didn't catch part 1 and part 2, this will still be of value to you, but it might make more sense contextually if you watch part 1 and part 2 of the Sales Leadership Summit overview. That said, in the book, some of the principles we discussed, there was 10 of them. I'm going to spend the next couple of episodes kind of doing a deep dive on some of these that I believe are opportunities at your company. Maybe there's some pain points, some leaks that are happening, and I want you to mind your own business. I want you to look into it, pay attention to it, and the first one we're going to talk about is actually principle 1 out of the book. The first principle at the event was focus on what drives others. Got to focus on figuring out what drives other people. Now, the particular content discussed there really covered a lot of areas of understanding the motivations, drives, and behaviors of your team. And I'm going to highlight just a few of them that I think are worthy of just kind of maybe having conversations around the leadership table and maybe conversations with some people on your team. So the first thing is here's 4 areas, and just kind of unpack these real quickly for you. He's going to talk about at the event. He talked about advancement, individuality, madness, which was a weird title. I'll get into that, and then purpose. So let's look at these here, 4 areas that drive people. Some people are driven by advancement. What does that mean? They want to know what's their next promotion, or they want to know what is the next completed task you expect from them, or they want to know what is the deadline they're operating against because that drives their behavior. They need deadlines, they need clarity of deadlines, or what is the goal as a team that we are trying to reach together. You have certain people on your team that they're floundering, they're flailing, they're suffering unnecessarily, partly because they just don't have clarity of what we're trying to do exactly. They don't know exactly what we're trying to move towards next. They don't have clear expectations of a deadline or a task or an area of advancement. They don't know that if I check these boxes, it unlocks this next level for them. And there's just a lack of clarity around that. So what you can do to benefit the whole team, but specifically the people who are wired this way, is start examining, is it very clear what it takes to go from an entry-level porter to a, advanced porter to a senior porter at your store? Is there a career path as a porter? Is there an entry-level associate sales role? Is there a certified sales role? Is there a master sales role, right? Is there a clear path? You have people on your team that you could unlock their next level of production if they had clarity as to what they were moving towards and what behaviors you expected. So that's very important. So some people on your team, that's all they need, is they need more clarity. And for people who are wired this way, broadly speaking, advancement people, they want to know, how do I advance? How do I move the ball down the field? How do I get to the next level? How do I achieve the next goal, right? How do I unlock the next privilege or perk in my pay plan? Right? Some people need that roadmap, that blueprint, and their brain does not work well without it. The next person then on the list was individuality. Some people are motivated by lifestyle, by recognition, by achieving a certain sense of personal security in their finances or home. Some people are lifestyle motivated. So for them, their driver is, I'm trying to get that new car. I've always wanted to buy a new car. Or I'm trying to get that kitchen remodeled for my wife because I want her to be able to post on Instagram, look at my new kitchen. Some people are just wired by that, the status of success, right? You have certain people on your team, as an example, who if you put a spiff out that you would give them, and I'm going to be generic here, but you'll get the idea, a custom tailored suit. You have someone on your team that would run through every goal that you've set for them to unlock the perk of having a custom tailored suit in their closet. That would just, because of the significance, their initials embroidered into the jacket of the suit. There are certain things that are just kind of lifestyle unlock achievement things. For example, you have certain people on your team that there's a number that if they went to an ATM And if they took out $20, when they look at the slip that says available balance, there's a number on there that speaks peace. What is the number that if you said you pulled out an ATM slip and it says available balance is X, what is the number that represents peace to you? It doesn't necessarily it doesn't scream success yet, but it says peace. You have certain people on your team that are driven by security and they just want to feel a sense of peace. You don't know that number for them. They've not actually ever thought of that number. This is an exercise you can do with your team and find out, hey, who here is motivated by advancement? They just want to know what's next. What's the next thing they got to do? Who here is motivated by lifestyle? They want to unlock a perk, a privilege. They want their mama and papa to be proud of them, right? Third one, which is a strange title, madness. They like and thrive off of opposition, competition, control, power and fame, proving others wrong. You people like this? The need to avoid embarrassment, interesting. Mastery, be the best and break records. You have people who are wired to live in chaotic states. They thrive off of freedom, flexibility, uncertainty. They love it. They love challenges. They love competition. They love like he said, proving other people wrong, right? They love being the outlier, right? That's what they're motivated by. So for example, I'm going to pick a sales department. You can pick whatever department you manage or oversee or just transfer it to someone else. But on your sales floor right now, is it a known thing? Does everybody know what the individual daily best sales record is for the sales floor? Has anyone ever sold 5 cars in a day, sold and delivered? Is that the current record? Do your people know that there is such a record? Most cars sold in a week, most delivered in a week, most in a month. Highest income earned in the calendar month. Most referrals sold in a week. Most views on a social media post. There are some things that you have people on your team that if they just knew that there was such a record, if you put it publicly, posted and said, and put the name of the person next to it, they'd be like, I'm taking that person down, I'm taking that person down, I'm taking that person down, I'm taking that record home, I'm taking that trophy home. You have some people that just, they love the thrive of that environment and they're driven by it. So do you have people on your team like this that's what they want to know? They want to know, how do I beat everybody else? How do I prove you wrong? Tell me I can't do something and then watch me do it. Are you creating opportunities for them, because that's the way they're wired, to actually thrive in that environment? And then the next one is purpose. Some people are motivated by purpose. So they look at things like, the legacy they're creating. Are they helping others? Are they making a positive change in their business, in their environment, in their lives? Are they making an impact in their community, in the dealership? Are they moving towards some form of enlightenment? Are they arriving at some place that makes them feel fulfilled? Right? So you have certain people that need to know that there's a purpose behind what they're doing. So these people thrive when they understand the company's core values, mission, vision. They thrive in an environment like that where they know we're doing something that has a purpose. Whenever you have campaigns, oftentimes campaigns that are attached to some sort of altruism, which is to say for every car we sell or every customer who comes through service, we're raising X dollars to do something for someone in the community, a charity, an organization, a cause. These people tend to rally around that because it has more purpose. It's not simply them just selling something. It's now when I sell something, I'm making an impact in my community. I'm doing something that'll have a legacy, right? So maybe you can get with your team and find out who in the team is hardwired for purpose. Who would, if they could pick a charity, a cause, or an organization, who would like to do a fundraiser, and they'd partner with the dealership, and we would set a goal and drive awareness towards that goal for the purpose of them knowing that they played a huge role in something having an impact or a legacy. So this is one of the first areas, principle number one, what motivates your people? What drives their behavior? Now, there's some resources I can make you aware of. Obviously, inside my Psychology University platform, and my stores know this, there's an entire series of modules where we talk about coaching and motivating, and we unpack several layers I won't get into in this particular episode, but things you should be aware of. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a Psychology 101 thing that you learned in psych class in high school or college, and it essentially establishes that there's these different stages of which a person moves through psychologically, right? So it's based on their needs for, like, their base need is basically physiological need. Like, I need to know that I'm not going to die tomorrow, right? I need to know that I can eat food, right? I need to know that I have shelter, right? So that's kind of your base need. And as you move through these needs, you get to the top need, which is like self-fulfillment, enlightenment, right? Peak experiential need. You know, it's hard for me to focus on a really high peak goal if I don't even have my electricity on in my house, right? If my kids don't have enough cheese in their macaroni. So you have people on your team that if you talk to them at a peak level, goals and aspirations, because that's where you're living, right? You probably haven't had to worry about the cheese in your kids' macaroni for a hot minute. So you forget that you have people on your team that are worried about bills. You haven't worried about bills. You don't know what the price of gas is. So you lose a little bit of that empathy. Well, if you're talking all the time at this peak level to an audience, that some of which are down here at physiological, right? Just room and board, basically. You're gonna have a disconnect in how you can influence and impact them because you haven't helped them meet that base need. So that's one of the areas that psychology teaches. There's other things that we talked about, like, for example, the 5 languages of workplace appreciation. Here's another thing, not everybody resonates the same way and responds the same way to appreciation. So for example, you might be a words of praise and affirmation kind of person where you love telling people, great job, and you're amazing, and I love you. And that's natural for you because that's your language. You speak it so fluently. But on the other end, the recipient, their language may not be words of praise. It might be quality time, or it might be something like an act of service. So if I have a person on my team who's high acts of service and I'm high words of affirmation, I'm always saying to them, man, I love you, great job, you're doing amazing. But since their need, their language is acts of service, all they think is, yeah, well, if you really thought I was so amazing, why haven't you helped me with that project? Remember, I came to you and I asked you if you could help me with that newsletter. Remember, I told you I was thinking about doing something with that apartment complex where I could set up that preferred purchase program. I mentioned that to you 2 weeks ago. In their mind, they're like, stop telling me how much you love me. You won't even take 5 minutes to help me. So understanding that disconnect means that sometimes you're adding, in your mind, you're adding value by showing appreciation to an audience who doesn't speak that language. You're praising in French, but they speak German. It doesn't communicate. So managers who don't know this often struggle. So you got to learn this stuff. Now, the next one then is that we focus on is the 6 human needs. In psychology, we teach managers that driving behavior is going to be based on understanding what's their hard wiring. Are they wired for certainty, variety, community, significance, contribution, growth? These are 6 human needs. They drive a person's behavior from internally. How do you match your both incentive structure, your spiffs, your coaching, your motivation to manage people when they're all wired different? You have to first know that they're different and then know how to feed them the thing that they want to eat. So I just really love the fact that at this event that I went to, that one of the first things we spent time on as one of the 10 principles was, do we know and how can we focus on what drives behavior, behavioral change? It all comes down to behavioral change. It doesn't matter if you give them the best process if they won't follow it. You give them the best script if they won't follow it. You give them the best steps if they won't take them. If they don't change, if there's no behavioral change, it doesn't matter. And that's why I focus on psychology first. And I hope you're getting some value out of this recap and principle number 1 from the Sales Leadership Summit. If you didn't watch part 1 and 2, the summary, please do so, where I covered all 10 principles broadly. And I'll be covering a few more principles in future episodes. Thanks again for tuning in for Mind Your Own Business here at CBT News.
This has been Mind Your Own Business with Jonathan Dawson.